Well, all right, we're back out here again. Just kind of left off with one video and started another one on this car because we've got a lot of welding to do. And before I got started, I wanted to let you guys kind of look at, these are plug welds or holes for plug welding. And you can tell I screwed up because there's nothing behind that hole or that hole, but the rest of them are going to weld an inner reinforcement to the back side of where our striker bolt is. Now these holes, if we're doing collision repair work, we typically go back with like a 5/16 hole. I think these are close to that, but they're not quite that big because we're gonna burn them all in really nice and hot with our MIG welder. You can also, you can see the gap behind where these holes are. So this is not pulled in tight yet. I'm going to tighten it up, and then I'm going to come in, I'm going to run a couple of self-tappers in this outer edge and get it pulled in here. And then I'm going to make sure the door fits before I ever start welding anything. Make sure that the door still fits the car, okay? You don't want to lock it down and have it off because that will create a world of problems for you. So the quarter, I mean, you can look down it. These quarters weren't that great. They're decent, but I mean, that's all they are. All right, striker bolts tight in there. These spots are tight to plug weld. Up here I've got a gap. Over here there's nothing there. Here we're pretty good, and then I put a screw in. This was the furthest away once I tightened up that striker, and we got it in there pretty close. We'll just use like a big round punch and kind of hit those before we start welding to get them a little tighter. That seems like I get better results when I weld and I have that closed up, even though the weld pool melts that metal away a little bit. I'm gonna set up a plug weld here just so you guys can look at it. I haven't explained that, I don't think, in a video ever before, so let's do that after I'll show you this. So door shuts, top edges line up nice, gap pretty consistent all the way down. And our flushness is pretty close. We got a lot of adjustment in the door up front. I think we're going to be fine there. We're kind of dictated on the in and out of the quarter by how it fits here and how it fits right here. And right now this quarter is set just about perfect to be able to weld it in there. So that's why we're starting on this side. Let me get a punch so I can knock these down, and a plate with a hole in it so we can look at the plug welding process. All right, so I set up a little demo for a plug weld here. I have a just very close to 5/16 inch hole drilled through my metal. I've made sure it's flat on the back side. I got another piece of same metal here, and I'm going to put them together. I'm going to throw a pair of clamps close to the weld site, make sure we look good. And I'm going to lay it down here. Got to have a ground for the welder every time. All right, so I have my welder already set up with the recommended wire speed and amperage. 023 wire, 75-25 argon CO2 mix gas. The basic like welding setup for doing auto sheet metal. Now when I get ready to weld this, like my wire is a little bit long there, the stick out of that wire is kind of important. Since I'm not worried about it, I'm just going to fold it over, but I'm going to hold that machine about maybe 3/8 to a 1/2 inch off of the surface, and that hole I'm just going to trace around the inside of it and go right to the middle and then stop. And our goal is to get a nice flat looking plug weld with good penetration. So let's see what we can do. All right, looks like we got her plenty hot. So what does the back look like? Well, it's glowing. Yeah, I mean, it's actually a little bit more than what you need. You can see how much weld is sticking out of the back, how thick that is. And we're not too crazy on the front. I went way around that edge. Truthfully, I need to have reading glasses on while I'm doing this because I'm blind. But yeah, that is textbook for a plug weld. When we're welding on this car, we do not have textbook conditions. So typically I will get a good puddle started and start it catching and melting the metal, and I may stop and then move to another spot and do the same thing. Because I really don't want that big of a plug weld all through every one of these holes. That would be crazy. So let's try a couple and we'll talk about it. Always got to have that darn ground hooked up or it just does not work for you. Make sure. Yeah, that's not grounded. Striker bolt it is. Come on, cords. There we go. Okay, get ready. Cover. All right, let's let them cool down for just a second. You can see there's some buildup in there. These things are never just textbook beautiful for me on one of these cars. There was a bunch of grinding dust and stuff that had got down in here and kind of contaminated things. And then that galvanized spray on there, it likes to boil, so when you get it just to the point where it's about to seal it up, the gas from it will blow your puddle out. So you got that too. But I'm not afraid to weld like this piece and just kind of move around this thing. I'm not going to jump all over the place welding different areas. I've got enough screws in this quarter panel, it's not going to move. I'm going to get some critical stuff locked down. Like this corner right here, I want that dead flush with that rocker. And I'm gonna weld it, you know, maybe an inch little stitch right here in the corner. And it's gotta have enough of a weld that we can come in and we can cut a groove in it. So when we put seam sealer on it, it looks like a factory quarter. That seam is impossible for us to weld in there in the aftermarket because it's spot welded on the inside of this rocker. I've left a flange on them before and plug welded and then body worked all that, but this seems to work every bit as good as that. So yeah, a lot of talking. Let's just weld and then we'll come back and look. Oh yeah. There you go, guys. Welding, welding, welding. Trying to keep the welds small where I can. You could see that one just like crap was popping and snapping back behind it. I don't think we messed up anything here. This is a problem you'll have. That's like all of the crud that builds up on your nozzle. You got to clean that thing constantly when you're doing this. Clean your nozzle. And there you go. I don't feel like we hurt anything there. Yeah. I don't see any big waves in the panel. So we'll call that one a success. I had to pull the screws out, finish some welding here. I did fill in that hole and that one got a little out of sight. I got to weld these up here, get a couple of tacks, all that good stuff. It's just a little bit of fun, you know? That's what we're out here having, a little bit of fun. And I'll just start at the front on the door gaps and then I'll lock in the bottom. And then I'll work my way back along the bottom of the quarter panel and get this wheelhouse stitched in good. And then I'm gonna have to put some screws up in the top and get it locked in before I do all that welding. We just don't want to give this thing a whole lot of room to walk around, because you'll start clamping and you'll actually move the metal as you're clamping. That's why we want to have screws outside of our clamp area. Yeah. You just got to think about it. More is better. You can put so many screws in it that you end up having to fill a ton of holes though, so just keep that in mind. Well, there you go. Welds. Went ahead and started welding the cell panel in. And I've welded here and I've ground the welds there. Alright guys, so here we are back on the old Nova, and she is coming right along, as you guys can see. And I welded along the bottom there, and I started back inside of this wheel well. I've got a bunch of them ground, but I've still more welding to do. It's the thing with one of these projects, there's just a lot of to get it back together. Definitely not going to make this one an hour-long video for you guys. We are going to cut it a little bit shorter. I mean, there's just so much.